As requested, this is the continuation of the video about Abraham Hannibal, the African child slave who became a famous mathematician, a famous engineer, but mainly the general of the strong Russian army. Before we begin the video, just a quick note, I want to clarify that the first video was in TikTok format, as it still is, meaning it's condensed and lacks a lot of information. That's on purpose, so I kept the essentials. But I also didn't want to specify where Abraham is from. Honestly, you're frustrating me, because to my knowledge, there are no official documents that specify exactly where he is from. Some documents state he comes from the Lagone region, near Lake Chad. It's important to know that Lake Chad spans Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, so he could potentially be from any of these three countries. There are also other documents, the earliest writings, which specify that he comes from the village of Lagone, a village that is now part of what is equivalent to Ethiopia, so that's another country. He's from Central Africa, it could be Gabon or many places. Plus, I lived in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, around 2009, 2010, or 2011 if I'm correct. I talked to a professor who is also a historian, and he was the one who showed me the story. He had pointed out to me at the time that whether in Kherson, which is a very important city in Abraham's history, or in Moscow, they did not find any documents that clearly state Abraham's exact country of origin. That said, let's begin the story of Abraham. Oh, it's about time. In the first video, I talked about his professional rise, so that was a more professional video. In this video, we'll cover his private life, mainly his love life. You'll see that Abraham Hannibal's love life is fit for a real Brazilian soap opera. At the age of 34, Zakaria had not yet reached his peak, but he had already begun to climb the ranks in the army as an engineer and mathematician. So he was missing something, a woman, and potentially a family. That's when he met Eudoxie. Eudoxie is a young woman of Greek origin, and he falls for her. He literally falls for her. And when he falls for her, as was customary at the time, he asks for her hand from her father, Eudoxie's father. Put yourself in her father's position. He sees a young man who is a mathematician, an engineer, and a military officer, who is also the protector of the Russian royal family. Naturally, he's a good match for her. He agrees. But Eudoxie isn't in love with Abraham. Plus, she has a little guy on the side. Sorry? So the marriage takes place in 1731. If I'm not mistaken, they will celebrate their wedding and live together. But Abraham has many commitments, so he is often absent. Eudoxie doesn't love him before this, so it's just another excuse. She has an affair with one of his students and gets pregnant. The child born is a girl who is completely white. What an embarrassment, what an embarrassment. Up to that point, we can say it was alright. Abraham claims that Eudoxie and one of her lovers will try to poison him. Hey dad. And this will infuriate him. He is powerful and all. So he has Eudoxie imprisoned in a prison where it seems she was in inhumane conditions. He is entirely heartbroken. He has taken early retirement, having requested it from the army. The retirement was of course accepted because that's how the royal court works. He seems to be cutting himself off from everything. It's at this point that he meets Christina Regine, the daughter of a Swedish officer. And at that moment, it's genuinely a mutual love at first sight. Truly, both of them fell under each other's spell. Thus they united. Abraham regained his strength, returned to the army, and began to rise through the ranks step by step to general. And you can see love's power. Abraham was in love and regained all his old habits. According to sources, they will have, some say 7 children, some say 10. Some sources even say 2 children. As among all these kids, there are really 2 who drew attention. So they will have, we can say 7 children. Among these 7 kids, there will be his eldest son named Ivan, who will also be a true soldier and later become a general. He will even be one of the founders of the city of Kherson in Ukraine. He will also have another son called Osip. And it's Osip who will have another daughter, and that daughter is the mother of Alexander Pushkin, who will be the topic of the next video. I hope you enjoyed this video. By the way, feel free to subscribe and leave comments. Hey guys, don't be upset. I really needed to clarify the nationality since there's a lot of ambiguity. And the first to mess with my hat, I'll block them for life. I'll block them at home, I'll block them at work, I'll block them everywhere. Until then, take care.